So we've had some companies who've had HR data exposed, salaries exposed. We've had AI turned on as a meeting note taker, and then senior leaders have had confidential conversations after the team have left, not realizing that it's been transcribed and everyone can see it. If you've scaled your business but haven't put in place the right compliance and security around your data, it's like opening the front door to your home. AI is going to crawl. Get the foundations right. Get the processes in to support the business to scale. We work with one business and we saved them £1 million by removing that license. For someone to say, I want to start a business. And it's great, and we want to encourage that entrepreneurship. But we also want to make sure that that business has legs. When you start to put your company IP out, it's across multiple servers, your data is going to be shared. I've made many mistakes, I'm not going to lie. But we only learn from trying, don't we? But sometimes not knowing what you don't know can be a blessing, because you don't know the things you're supposed to be doing, so you just give it your best shot.
Do you think that we have too many business support networks in Scotland?
I think.
Welcome to season 2 of the Business Backstage Podcast. I am your host, Bukola Osuntuyi. Today, I am joined by somebody who has become a recognized voice in practical digital transformation here in the UK, and that is Sheryl Newman, the CEO of Appetite for Business, based in Aberdeen. Sheryl is a Microsoft 365 and digital change specialist who helps organizations to unlock productivity, strengthen compliance, and drive adoption through practical people-first transformation and responsible AI. Beyond her work with clients, Cheryl plays a significant role in shaping Scotland's digital future. She has built an award-winning culture at Appetite, championing inclusive, purpose-led leadership and resilient teams. And with over 20 years of experience in digital change, Cheryl is known for turning technology into measurable business value for organizations across sectors. Cheryl, it is a pleasure to have you on the Business Backstage Podcast. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for inviting me to be here, and I almost didn't recognize myself in that description. So thank you for that.
Funny, yesterday I was just thinking about the fact that I've never met Cheryl. I've never met you in person, but it feels like I've known you for some time. The first time that I connected with you was on LinkedIn.
Did.
Yeah. You're meant to be a guest speaker on one of the Women in Tech events. I just seen you for the first time, and I thought that it would be good to connect with you before the event. But you told me that for some reason you could not make it. So we've been in touch ever since. I have been inspired by your stories and by the work that you do at Appetite, and I thought that you would be the perfect guest to help us unravel the mysteries of scaling a business, particularly in the UK. So thank you so much for being here again.
My absolute pleasure, and I'm looking forward to seeing how I can perhaps help other founders who are looking to adopt the system or perhaps do more in 2026. So delighted. Thank you.
Awesome. We're going to get straight to it. When I went through your website, which your website is beautiful, by the way, and for those watching, you want to check it out. It's appetite.business. I particularly love the storyline and how your business started right from your kitchen. But before you started Appetite, how did your career path lead you to the path that you are on right now, and what experiences have shaped the way you now help businesses to scale?
From a very young age, Nicola, I always wanted to help people. That was something that was kind of quite a North mission for me, and I didn't quite understand how that was going to be. In the early days, when I was very, very young, wanted to do journalism. That was my kind of first thing. I love stories. I love listening to stories. I love hearing people's stories, and I like questioning why. And actually, when you come full circle to where we are now, we're actually telling stories with people's data. We're telling stories with what people's businesses are trying to do. So it has kind of come in a full circle way. Tech was never going to be my choice. I was interested in it, but at school, the guidance teacher had said, tech's for boys, it's all about coding. And coding wasn't something that I was interested in. And I feel very fortunate, and I'm very pleased for young women coming through now, because there's such a depth and breadth to technology that they can really play in and support. So that's a really positive step. But yeah, for me, it was never going to be that career path. But I actually have a master's degree in German, which is entirely very useful. But I didn't want to teach, or I didn't want to take that forward. And quite unexpectedly, I fell into a position which then led me to being approached by a Fortune 500 American technology provider to come and work with them. And that was the start of it. It was just like you'd opened up a toy shop for me, because about 8 months into that role, I was approached by BP to go and work on their new technology project. So I was still obviously contracting to BP, but this was at the time when eBay was just coming out. There was all this really cool collaborative tools. And I was working on a program where I did end user adoption for over 10,000 people globally and these new collaborative ways of working. And I just loved how you could really upskill people, but also companies by giving them this technology and making sure their processes were correct and the opportunities that that would allow for both the individual and the company. So it just kind of scaled from then, and I've never looked back.
That is such an amazing journey. Masters in German.
I love Germany.
Yeah.
I have a real love for that country. I've also lived there. I love the people. They're very efficient. It kind of works really well with what I do now. They're very efficient. They're very to the point, very structured, which is what we all need to be as business owners. But when Appetite actually began, this sounds very grand, and it wasn't, but I was part of another business at that time. It was the energy recession in 2015. Things weren't looking very good. So I made the decision to do a buyout of the owner of the business, which was crazy at the time because there was no work in Aberdeen. I had 2 leased premises and I had a small team to service. And then 2 weeks later, unfortunately, my mother was diagnosed with terminal cancer. But I actually think in a way that was a blessing because it allowed me something to focus on, something that wasn't out with that difficulty, and it gave me an opportunity to really kind of put everything I'd learned into practice and try and take it forward. And I always think as a founder, sometimes it's very gritty, it's very difficult. You have to have bucket loads of determination and belief, and that can be very hard at times. But sometimes not knowing what you don't know can actually be a blessing because you don't know the things that you're supposed to be doing, so you just give it your best shot in a way. And I think that's just kind of what happened for me.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing your journey. I would go to the topic of the day. We're talking about businesses. We're talking about SMEs and
Yes.
moving up to the point where businesses begin to scale. I think that is one of the major challenges that SMEs have, particularly in the UK. There was an article that I read from 2023 anyway, and it says that only 1% of SMEs are scale-ups, yet they contribute about £500 billion to the UK's economy. So that tells you the potential of the UK's economy. So you've been working with different SMEs. What is the most hidden operational bottlenecks that stops businesses from scaling?
I think that, and you'll probably resonate with this really well, usually the bottlenecks are invisible and they're typically hidden in daily operations. So when you're growing, typically got no structure, you've got no foundation, you've got no systems, or you might have a multitude of different systems that you're using to enable you to grow. But then what then happens is you get this sense of growth equals more. So more people, more customers, more revenue, but it's not. Scaling is not more. Scaling is getting efficient, it's getting lean, it's getting clear outcome driven. So for me, it's a clear differentiator is no ownership of outcomes. Mm-hmm. Unless you tell your people what they're expected to do, it's not about tasks, it's about accountability. So you've got to make sure that everyone understands what you're asking them to do within the business. Otherwise, without guidance, they don't know what they're expected to do either. And that's one of the biggest issues. Decisions will get stuck. Everyone assumes that someone else is doing it. I also think some of the bottlenecks as founders are very much focused on doing rather than leading. When they try to grow, it stalls because they're so heavily embedded within that business and they're wearing so many hats, HR, sales, you name it, looking after the team. So it becomes very, very difficult and it becomes that over-reliance on a founder, which can be very difficult to break. That creates decision bottlenecks because they're having to make decisions and everything. No one can make decisions without their say. So it slows execution down. And these things typically only become visible when the founder steps back or moves into a different role. Or they burn out. Mm-hmm. And that's quite consistent in our industry. You get a lot of burnout from people because they are just trying to manage too many things. I also think as well, it's scaling for me requires simplification, right? If we get simplification, we're going to multiply our efficiencies. We're going to compound that growth of our people. So I think that's the kind of key thing that I think is really, really important. Another thing that's important is clearly defined processes. A lot of small businesses have weak processes. There's no documentation or consistent ways of working. So therefore, we're repeating mistakes. We've got slow onboarding. We've got inconsistent results. We've got no data led to help us to move to that next level. And coming on to data, it's about poor data hygiene, really. A lot of decisions are made on gut feel, and there's nothing wrong with gut feel, but sometimes it's good to have the data to back it up, the evidence. So you can align your resources accordingly because you don't want to hire too quickly if you don't have the right amount of income coming in to support that hire. and helping you with forecasting as well, with your sales, understanding what's working, what's performing, what's not. I think as founders as well, when you're scaling, we think that every customer wants what we want to buy. No, they don't. No, they don't.
Tell me about it.
So we have to make sure that we're constantly testing the market, that we're constantly making sure that we're speaking to our customers, that we're understanding that they do want what we want to buy, because you can't scale if the market doesn't want what you're selling. And I think if you can do all of these things, they'll compound over time, and then they'll help you to scale effectively and safely.
If you do these things, it will compound over time. And I think that's where the issue is, that there is that impatience. You just want to get things done, do things on your own quickly. But that's not how to scale. You're saying that founders are more focused on doing rather than leading. And I think that it's because there's this emotional attachment that founders have to their businesses. It's my baby. So they are just so focused on launching the product, but what's going on behind the scenes is chaos.
I heard this great saying, and it was the real definition of doing more is doing it with less friction. So get the foundations right. Get the processes in to support the business to scale. Put the processes in to support your people so they can contribute and understand what data you've got, and use that data to inform how you want to grow. And I think those are the key things that I would say to any SME, and what I've learned myself in my own business.
Yeah.
I've made many mistakes. I'm not going to lie, but we only learn from trying, don't we? And learn from the experience of others that we can perhaps take and adopt too.
I agree. Now I want us to simplify scaling. When you're in the startup, ecosystem, you get to hear that word scale a lot. And I think that some business owners just would assume, I think you rightly said it in your response, you just assume that scaling simply means adding more tools, more people, more processes. But Cheryl, you know that there's a whole lot more to it. So from your own perspective, what does it mean for a business to scale? And what are the common misconceptions that you've seen when it comes to SMEs trying to grow?
I think for me, scaling doesn't necessarily mean that, I've spoken to founders who've got 10 in a team and they've got a £3 million revenue turnover. It's a misconception that it means having more and more bodies within your business. It means, for me, a business will start to scale when the work's consistent. It's not dependent on individuals. So again, it comes back to these clear SOPs, these clear processes, these clear instructions, so that if someone were to leave your business and move on, that someone else could then pick it up. So you've got that foundation and that structure that will help you help scale. That's not even sustainable expansion. It's just it's chaos, as you quite rightly said. It's not going to lead to actually anything. The second is also thinking technology is going to fix things. It won't. Technology is not the silver bullet. They don't create discipline. If your underlying process isn't clear or clunky, all you're doing by digitalizing it is just making it worse.
Yeah.
And I think also leaders think they need a big transformation program. It's this big thing to scale. But it's not. Scaling is one small step at a time, cleaning up one little process, one tool used properly, giving your team clarity. And I think for me, the 3 key words I always talk about is foundation, clarity, and repeatability.
Okay.
It's discipline. And having those within the business then will allow the business to scale, because you can then start to grow because everything is in place and everything is safe and kind of ready to go.
I think for this, communication it's a big one. It's a big keyword, which is also the clarity, making sure that people understand the processes that are in place. Yeah, and there's also that discipline, because like you rightly said, if you don't have the foundation, the structures, if the structures are not in place, the processes, and all of that, and even the discipline, technology would only amplify that chaos of it. Yeah.
And I think we've spoken about this offline as well. There's lots of startup programs, there's lots of scale up. But do you know what? And I need to say this because you hear of so many people who've called, what the industry calls lifestyle business, right? There's maybe 1, 2, or 3 of them, and they are happy and they're doing what they always wanted to do. I think there's always this bit of a pressure that you have to grow, you have to be bigger and better than what you are, and there's a place for everyone. And I think as a founder, you need to be sure of quite clear about what your vision is and where you want to go, and stick to that, and not allow yourself to be pushed into something that isn't aligned to your business, because again, that can cause issues in business too. So I think it's just being clear on your vision and where you want to go to and what you want to do, and I think that is the most important thing, and sticking to it, not allowing anyone to deviate you from your path.
That's really important. I'd like for us to move on to what you do, working with Microsoft 365. It took me working with an e-commerce company in the UK. That was back in 2017. It took me working in that company for me to know that Microsoft is actually a robust tool, and it even has an ERP, the Microsoft Dynamics. So most people, I think, they know Microsoft 365, but they know it just for emails and, documentation. And you have helped
Yes.
companies to unlock more value with the software. So what are the most overlooked features that can transform business operations?
Yeah, you're right. A lot of companies still think it's Outlook, email, or Teams since COVID.
Yes.
Everyone's quite familiar with Teams. Um, but it's actually, yeah, you're right. It's so much more than that. It's absolutely it can become an integrated tool set that can really help support your business. There's a feature called Power Automate, which can reduce time-consuming manual processes. So that will help you to achieve greater efficiencies. Unlocking the power of your data. A lot of the companies we talk to are either on server-based
Okay.
information structure, or they have moved to SharePoint, but again, it's in a folder structure that you might recognize from a network drive. What you don't realize is that you probably can't find those nuggets of valuable data, because when you get folders within folders within folders, then what typically starts to happen online is the search will start to break, and then you will not be able to retrieve. What you're then going to get is very unhappy, frustrated end users because they can't find the information they need to do their jobs. So if you're structuring your system really well, you can get great document management systems, business management systems, if you want to call it that. You can structure all your health and safety data through that. We've worked with some companies to help them put in place incident reporting. I'm just trying to think of all the stuff we talk about. Power BI, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So I spoke to a business manager yesterday. He's like, I have to dig through so many spreadsheets and reports to get to the figure that I want to know about. And we were saying, with a Power BI dashboard, it's there, it's updated in real time. You can see that overview. So again, you're being proactive rather than reactive. So there really is a whole toolbox in there. And then of course you've got AI, okay, which is the hype for 2025. It's come upon us very, very quickly. It is obviously going to continue to accelerate at pace. And I think for a business owner using 365, data and AI can be very overwhelming. And we want to try and make it useful and possible. So it's working across basically every stage of the 365 lifecycle, understanding a company strategy and working out which tool is right. Not every tool needs to be adopted by every business. Again, it's around thinking what is right for you now, what is future-proofed, and what is scalable. And I think the most important, I have to say, again, about 365, technology is great, but data doesn't create action, people do. So you have to upskill those people to be able to make them confident in what you're asking them to do with your data, and where to find value. And I think that's part of what you can get from the 365 toolset as well, if people understand how to use it correctly.
It all boils down to the people and being able to empower them to use the tools that are in place. And I think people underutilize the tools that are available to them because they don't even know the use of those tools and how it can help them.
Because my background is in end user adoption, I'm really engaged and interested in it. And it's the people that will unlock the value of these tools. So we've spent a huge amount of years being part of a learning and performance industry accreditation, because we want to ensure that quality, we want to ensure that people bit is never missed. And it does take a lot of time and effort and kind of to work with people and to guide people and to make sure it's right for them as well. It's not just a one size fits all. You can't just say, here's Teams. You've got to understand how the business works. What are the difficulties? What are people struggling with? What would they like to get to? And then that ability to make it customized to their needs so they will get exactly what they need out of it rather than buying off the shelf. And that's the thing, because a lot of companies will just go and spend huge amounts of money on off-the-shelf products. We worked with one business and we saved them £1 million by removing that license of a third-party software.
My gosh!
And you don't know what you don't know because you just buy tools because you think that's what you need. And that's not a failing. It's just because when you're leading a business, you haven't got time to be researching and thinking and wondering. And that's kind of our job, to support these companies to put in place the right things that will give that ROI to their business.
Yeah, I can't overemphasize the need to consult specialists, operators, people who have been in the business that can actually advise you and just help you. Because this issue that we're talking about is not just in the tech industry, even the third sector. Because I work a lot with different organizations, startups, and some charities. When I help them as an operator to set up their operations, one of the major challenges that I observe with founders is, what tool do I use? We have the very popular ones. There's the Microsoft 365. There is the Google Workspace. I think there's usually that dilemma, like, which one do I, go with? Some people will just go with the popular, maybe because that's what they are comfortable with. Oh, Google Workspace, it's fine for me, or, Microsoft, it's those ones are okay. And some will do based on their friends influencing them. Oh, I use 365 for my business. However, when it comes to
Yeah,
it, I think it has to be customized based on your business model and your vision. So, Cheryl,
correct.
let's imagine that you were a founder who is trying to identify what tool is best to use. What are some of the things that you would use to filter in order to come to a conclusion?
We do a lot so obviously we specialize in 365. That's what we do.
Yes.
However, we are never ever going to advise a company on implementing a tool that's not right for their business. We will not do that because at the end of the day, it's around right tool for the right job. We work with a lot of companies who their end goal vision is M&A. They want to exit their businesses. So typically for them, having something like an industry standard tool set like M365 will be the right tool set for them because it's easy then for the incoming company to pick it up and to run with it. When you've got multiple different systems, then that becomes quite challenging because then they've got to integrate those systems into their business. So that's typically how we would do it.
Okay.
With some companies, I think there's a big decision right now. There's a lot of people using a lot of different tools because there's lots of different tools on the marketplace. Again, people aren't fully understanding the difference between, say, ChatGPT and Copilot.
Hmm.
And they think, yeah, so you've got lots of people just putting all their company information out onto ChatGPT. You've got developers coding on ChatGPT. And the problem with that is it's a fantastic tool for things like marketing and so on. However, when you start to put your company IP out, it's a learning platform. It's across multiple servers. Your data is going to be shared. That's what's going to happen. Whereas if you've got something like a Copilot instance, it's within your own 365 environment, it's using your own data, it's not going to expose anything out of that secure tenant. And I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions in the market right now, that all the AI tools are the similar. And it's no, you need to understand which one is going to be right for the purpose that you wish to use it.
You've worked
Okay.
hands-on with tools like Microsoft Copilot. You've used it to streamline business workflows. So, how do you think AI can act more like a strategic partner for businesses, especially when it comes to resolving all the bottlenecks?
Okay, so the first thing I'm always going to stress, and I will do this, we're seeing so many companies right now that are having Copilot turned on onto their Microsoft 365 environments.
Okay.
Now, that can be very dangerous because if you've scaled your business but haven't put in place the right compliance and security around your data, if your data is not managed correctly, then what we've seen happening is that it's like opening the front door to your home. AI is going to crawl and it's going to find stuff. So we've had some companies who've had HR data exposed, they've had company salaries exposed. We've had AI turned on as a meeting note taker in a meeting, and then senior leaders have had confidential conversations after the team have left, not realizing that it's being transcribed and everyone can see it. And that's the problem we've got right now. Leaders don't understand what it can do for their business. They don't understand the value it can bring, and they don't understand how to use it correctly. And these are all some of the pitfalls that we have to really be careful of before we want people to be adopting AI. So yeah, it can help amazingly. You're going to see in 2026 a workflow process being automated by agents. These agents are going to be very clever. They're going to be talking to each other and they're going to be able to do all the operational workflow. We're definitely going to be seeing that by the end of 2026. It's going to help teams. For me, it's that once your data is structured correctly so AI can interrogate it, it's going to move from that searching to knowing. So you're not going to therefore have someone searching for data. And here's a really cool stat. If someone's got files on a network share in a company, 1 in 5 people in a company, you'll be paying a salary for them just searching for information. Whereas if your data is structured, visible, and easy to find and interrogate, then that you're immediately saving that salary. So yeah, so it's going to turn scattered data into instant clarity, instant decisions. So you're going to not have repeatable mistakes. You're going to be able to search probably a database of perhaps incidents that have happened before in a business that you can call on. It's going to take away all the note taking, summarizing meetings, sending them around for review, because it's all collating it real time for you. It's sending them out to you. So it's going to take that heavy lifting away and allow people to be really strategic in their roles and what they're trying to do. And the third thing it's going to do is expose those process hidden gaps. So if something's unbroken, if there's unclear ownership, or if it's inconsistent, it's going to be able to highlight that very quickly. And it's almost like a mirror.
Yeah.
So you're able to see what the problem is in your business very, very quickly, and where the operational spine isn't quite right, and help you to rebuild that and get it in a safe place. So that's where I think it's really going to help. But again, the caveat, it needs to be a board level responsibility, not how do we use AI, but Are our processes, our culture, is our data ready to use it? That's got to be the question. It's not about productivity anymore for me, it's about performance. So it's not just improving tasks, it's improving the quality, it's reducing errors, it's supporting better operational discipline, which is something that we will all benefit from. And it's going to help leaders monitor progress, highlight risks, support teams in delivering change. So at the moment, it feels very much like an add-on, but I think within the next 12 months, it's not just going to be something that's sitting there that we could potentially use. It is going to be how a business is going to be running.
I particularly like what you said about it needing to be a board responsibility. The leadership cannot step aside when it comes to things like this. So, but then again, we know that AI, people are still trying to just grasp it. Not everybody is tech savvy. There's still some people that are scared to approach it. And where do I even start from? Yet I am the business leader. I'm meant to be driving innovation. So Cheryl, for business leaders who are not sure where to start, when it comes to artificial intelligence, what's a realistic first step that they can take without overhauling their whole system?
The first step that any leader should do is checking whether their current systems are secure and AI ready. Number one is check your data foundations. Ask these questions. Where's our data stored? Who's got access to it? Is it clean, consistent, and structured? If your data is scattered across inboxes, spreadsheets, or unprotected shared drives, as I've said previously, AI is only going to accelerate the mess. It's not going to give you the value that you're looking for. So number one, check your data foundations. Number two is validate your security and compliance before trialing any AI tools or turning anything onto your system. Ensure that it checks with GDPR and industry compliance rules. Very, very important. We work with a large pharmaceutical company. They've obviously got to be in line with the EU directive, so they have to be aware of what they're doing before they start using it. Work out, is your data protected end to end? Is all of your data protected? And also, do you have a clear policy? Do you have an AI policy? Most companies don't, and they're not actually educating staff on what AI tools they can use and how to use them safely. You need to support your staff. The problem is, unless there is clear governance in your business, your staff will be using these tools anyway, and you need to get control of them kind of quite quickly. If the answer is I'm not sure, that's your starting point around your security and compliance. And lastly, if you're a bit unsure and a bit unclear, run a small scale pilot. So choose a low risk process, test a use case, get a use case that's a real pain point in the business and test it out, and then get feedback from the team on how it's working. And I think those are the kind of three key things I would be guiding leaders to do right now. I also want to say, and this is very important for me to say this, AI's strategic intent is not in replacing people, and a lot of people are worried about losing their jobs. Yes, there will be some jobs, low-level jobs, that will be taken on by AI, but it's giving leaders the clarity, the capacity, and the momentum they've been missing, and it's also upskilling their people to be more productive and more valuable in their businesses. So it's, I think that's a worry in the marketplace. People don't want to adopt it because of this fears, and we need to change that fear into something positive and valuable, because that is what's going to move the needle in companies.
Yeah, but Cheryl, we have the big tech companies laying off thousands of employees, and they're being made redundant. So people like the employees, for instance, will feel like AI is actually taking my job. The software developers, the product designers, data scientists.
But you know what it's like, Bicola? I mean, I've been through 5 of these cycles now in my career. And typically what happens is large companies in particular, will become quite bloated. So during COVID, they might have upskilled, they might have taken on a lot of staff to deal with a lot of things. And then naturally there will be shrinkage. Naturally there will come a point when that company has to shrink down or downsize again. And it happens consistently. They grow, they shrink, they grow, they shrink. And I don't think it's something that, and I think the hype, again, that comes back to the hype, it's AI is taking our jobs. It's just newspaper headlines again. And it's not the real truth of what's underlying around some of those kind of layoffs in businesses. So I think we just need to look beyond the headlines a little bit and really trust and lean into the fact of what AI can do to help us as individuals grow and to help our businesses grow.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thanks so much. So when it comes to change management, this is one area that I like because it's very important for businesses.
Yes.
I mean, digital transformation would sometimes fail because there's that resistance to change. And there's the resistance to change because it's human beings that are being told that, we need to make change. Humans don't necessarily like change, but these things have to happen. So what are the practical strategies that can help leaders to embrace new systems rather than fight them.
Okay, so for me, resistance to change isn't the problem, it's the blind change. People will push back when they don't understand what's changing, why it matters, or how it's going to affect them. Okay, that's when it's going to fail. So the most practical strategies that we can offer is reducing the uncertainty and building confidence and not forcing adoption and starting it early. All too often that change adoption piece comes at the end of a program plan, for example. It needs to be at the start. You need to be starting to include key stakeholders. You need to be starting to educate. You need to be starting to showcase what's coming, why it's coming, and how it's going to help the users. I think the way that change management also presents is they start with the technology. Oh, we've got this great new technology, but start with the problem. Start with the problem. When teams are inputting and sharing their frustrations, for example, if they've got maybe 5 duplicate spreadsheets that they're using, that's going to be a real frustration. The rework, the errors, the stress. So if they can see that moving to a new system is going to help all of that, they're far more likely to get behind it. So clarity will always reduce resistance. So don't think they don't want to know. Some of them do, some of them, and they will be your good change agents, the ones that are going to get behind it and really push this forward for you. So yeah, so involve people early, not big committees, because you're never going to move that forward. Just individuals who live with the processes, who shape it, who can design it, and who help you test it. So that's one thing I would do.
Okay.
I would create a short, safe pilot.
Okay.
Small group, low risk, fast learning. Because pilots build believers and believers spread adoption. So, and that is far better than any top-down instruction. Use your people to help support and guide the implementation. And I suppose the last thing I would say is don't underestimate the emotional side of change. People worry about looking incompetent or slowing down others, and we always say there's no such thing as a stupid question, because there's not, because people don't know what they don't know. So leaders who acknowledge that and provide lots of hands-on support, make training accessible, is removing a huge barrier. These tools are a different way of working. You need to support your people to be able to use them effectively, and you need to give them the training and support to enable them to do that. So I guess summarize it would be show the problem, involve your people, start small, support them well, and then celebrate progress.
Amazing. I love all of them. That's very simple and practical.
It is simple. It's simple and practical steps, and it doesn't need to be these big methodologies. It's just human behavior. Let's support each other as human beings, and we can get us moving forward quicker.
A number of tech companies that I worked with, and we just somehow knew that there was a change. There was a tool that we needed to change. Maybe we were using, for instance, Magento before. All of a sudden, we're having to use another one, Salesforce. And I can't remember anywhere that there was this explanation for why we are making this change. So that's why I like the point about, saying blind change is the problem. You need to be able to articulate, why are we even making this change? How is it going to help people? That would help the employees to feel involved, like, okay, I am a part of this change. So just having that clarity and not forcing adoption, and also the change agents, the stakeholders, being able to involve them early on is also very key. So thanks so much for all of that insight. Really, really helpful.
You're welcome.
I'd like us to talk a bit about appetite. You've mentioned appetite and some of the strategies and how you help, but it would be great to just have an overview of how you are solving problems for businesses.
Okay, so typically, as I said, one size doesn't fit all. Every business has got different needs, and a lot of businesses are struggling at the moment with how to scale their businesses, or what to do with their data, how to manage their data, how to make their data secure. So we're creating a lot of business management systems within SharePoint, a tool that they're already paying a license fee for, and typically they were working with third-party solutions and trying to make the third-party solution fit their process, rather than having a process that's built specifically for their business that will grow and scale with their business. So we're typically doing a lot of that. An example that I'm really proud of, and as I mentioned a few times, end user adoption is something we're very, very focused on as a business, in addition to the technology piece. And we've been working with a company for the last 4 months. They're running a digital skills program. We do a lot of these programs, and they have done a very conservative estimate of each user. If each user is saving, they believe they're saving at least 1 hour a day on the tools and the tips that we're sharing with them, and they're going to save £500,000 per week in time.
Wait.
Yeah.
A week?
Yeah. So for companies, like your legal companies, your accountants, high billable hours, this is what you're going to do. But you need to have the right team in to help you, to enable you to do that. And it's, but yeah, it kind of blew my mind when they told me that. I was like, what? But typically in smaller pilots, we've done smaller pilots of 80 people. And again, they've seen huge productivity savings, which are typically some customers, some leaders will say, well, yeah, we're paying for people's time anyway. But do you want to be paying for time that's really strategic and really focused? Or do you want to be paying for time for people asking each other, leaning over, how do you do that again? How do you do that? That's not what you want to be paying for time for right now, especially in the economic trading conditions that we're in. You want to be supporting your people. You want to be upskilling your people. You want to be giving yourselves the best chance to thrive over the next year.
Mm-hmm.
And you can only do that by your people. They're the ones who are going to take your business forward. So, a little investment in them will be a big investment for your business. So that's typically a lot of the challenges that we're kind of working on just now, in addition to the kind of AI, rolling it out safely, governance, security, adoption, so rather than just turning it on and keeping your fingers crossed.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. I think the Appetite are doing such an amazing work. And for those who are listening or viewing right now, Appetite was one of the first businesses in Scotland to become a certified B Corporation.
Yes, we were.
It's such a big achievement. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
There was a LinkedIn post that you made, I would say maybe a couple of weeks back, and you said that investments often chase the next unicorn. So we tend to hear a lot about unicorn in the startup industry, and rather than showing the support for scale-ups. So how is that imbalance affecting SMEs, their ability to compete? You must put a lot of pressure on them.
Yeah, I think a lot of the problem right now is, as you'll probably be aware, there's a lot of talent drain from Scotland right now. A lot of founders who are looking for investment for their companies aren't getting it in Scotland, so they're going abroad to try and get that investment.
Yes.
And I think the last biggest unicorn that Scotland actually had was Skyscanner. That was our unicorn. And then there's lots of talk at the moment around, all the unicorns in Estonia and everything, all the talent that's coming out of there. That's very prevalent kind of conversation in the marketplace right now. But that's the biggest structural problem that we've got, because all the investment is currently looking to chase this next unicorn. And I often feel that scale-ups who've already got that traction are being overlooked. So when you look at the data, I think there's less than 15% of equity investment will go to established scale-ups. Whereas, as you discussed earlier, I think it's at 99% of all businesses are SMEs in Scotland. So they're responsible for the majority of the new jobs within this business. So I think we're kind of overfunding potential and underfunding performance, really. And that imbalance is creating three problems for me. First is that an SME who's looking to scale, who needs that investment, they're struggling to access the capital at the point when they actually are poised for growth. They can't get moved beyond that barrier because they haven't got the investment to help them to do it.
Yeah.
So they've got the customers, they've got a validated model, they've got the revenue, but they can't get the capital to expand to that next stage. Secondly, I think we've got a very uneven playing field at the moment. Venture-backed capital can't afford to run at a loss for years, while commercially solid SMEs are expected to grow on margins alone. And I think that suppresses competition and actually slows innovation within Scotland. And I think thirdly, the economy is missing out because scale-ups deliver the most sustainable productivity gains, and they're the ones starved of support. I'm not a strategist, but I think a healthier kind of funding landscape is simpler. Is just fund some of the money towards businesses that are actually delivering and performing and growing. So that means more mid-stage growth investment, better incentives, and investors placing greater value on things like retention, revenue quality, and operational maturity, not just headline validations. Because I think we've got to be backing proven performers, not chasing unicorns. And I think that's where the real economic value is going to sit. We've got such great talent in Scotland, such great businesses who are poised to grow really, really fast, but they just can't get there. And that's a real, real shame.
Yeah, it is. And I think that voices like yours, because you're somebody who's actively speaking about things that mean a lot to you and to the SME businesses, I think if we can constantly have conversations around that so that SMEs can start to receive the fundings that they need, that would really take us somewhere. Hopefully 2026 will bring a different and more positive side. Still speaking on the Scottish business ecosystem, I mean, just yesterday we're having a conversation on LinkedIn, and I like your own take. There was a post, I made a post about having too many business support networks, which, I mean, they're quite a number. You did say that there are different sides to it, and I mean, that's a valid point. It'd just be great to have your own perspective. Do you think that we have too many business support networks in Scotland?
I think we've got multiple support networks trying to do the same thing. And I think the information can become quite confusing. I don't think there's enough signposting of the correct information to help founders. That's one of the reasons why I joined the Scotland Is board, because they are such great advocates for SME tech businesses in Scotland. They are so great at signposting, about connecting, about raising the voice of the SME business owner at a government level, policy level. They're helping to shape policy. That's the reason why I joined, because I just think they're phenomenal at what they do and supporting and helping. I also think we have to be careful, and this is just my personal opinion. I think we have to be careful. I think it's very easy for someone to say, I want to start a business. And it's great, and we want to encourage that entrepreneurship. But we also want to make sure that that business has legs. We want to make sure it's a viable business product, and we don't want funding going into a product that is not going to be viable or scale or grow or help the economy or help grow teams. And I think sometimes there's not perhaps enough checks and balances around some of that. And again, therefore, we're perhaps taking away from those SMEs who are ready to scale and poised to scale, and they can't because the money's being diverted elsewhere. So I think it's a wider conversation. It's around trying to find the best support for people at the stage in the journey that they're at, and making sure that they get access to what they need to help them to move forward.
That's really valid. And just like you said earlier in your responses, there's this hype about scaling a business. Meanwhile, there are some businesses that are just maybe 2 or 3 in the company and they're doing so well. So I think the signposting is really important to allow founders to know what works best for them based on their vision and their business model. So yeah, that's really
Exactly. And each are very important to our economy, each are very viable, and no one should ever be made to feel that their business isn't adequate enough just because there's 2 or 3 of them. They can do some quite transformational things with 2 or 3 headcount business. I've seen it. And you should never have to apologize for that, because there's a place for everyone in this world. So I'm a very big believer in that. And I think there's a lot of pressure to feel that you have to scale and you have to grow. You do not. You have to do what's right for your vision.
awesome. Thank you so much. Just my last
That's all right.
question on this round, and
Yes.
your advice for startups today. What are the 3 foundational systems or habits that you will tell them to put in place before thinking about growth?
Okay, so I've some of these I've mentioned at the start of our discussion, but clear operating rhythm.
Okay.
Okay, meetings, metrics, cadence. So even if you're just 1 or 2 people, having those regular meetings creates good habits, and it also creates good solid foundations. So as we said, chaos will kill a startup faster than the competition. So simple, repeatable things that you do that keeps everyone aligned. So what that might look like for a small business might be things like weekly leadership meeting with a consistent agenda, maybe daily stand-ups, 10, 15-minute stand-ups in the business. Again, a single dashboard for KPIs, OKRs, or priorities, and then probably quarterly reviews of those KPIs or OKRs.
Yep.
So again, you're using the data, you're managing the data, you're not making a decision based on gut alone. It's based on real data that can give you traction. I think the second thing that's very, very important is creating a culture of performance and psychological safety as well. Because in early stage companies, people are the multiplier. They're the thing that are going to grow the business. But if they're confused, if they're stressed out, if they think they're doing the wrong thing, or they're fearful of raising an issue, execution is going to slow right down. So I think you need to make sure that every person in the team knows what great looks like. They've got clear job descriptions, clear OKRs, and performance habits. You've got to get fast cycle feedback. You've got to create that, not having people sitting in silos. You've got to be talking and sharing information about what's working and what's not working. Have very explicit norms for communication. So this is when we're going to communicate, this is what we're going to do. And again, that habit of surfacing issues early. I mean, I've been there as well, where people are buried away, working away, trying to figure it out on their own. And then they're burning time and they're burning money, and they're creating stress for themselves and stress for the business. So surface issues early, get your hand up, raise your hand. And the last thing I think I would probably say is probably finding some repeatable ways to validate and learn before you actually scale anything. So many startups try to scale before they actually know what's working. So you need that tight loop between kind of experimentation, learn, decide, and iterate. So you might have maybe 30 to 60-day learning cycles. You've got to document every assumption. It's not got to be kept in the founder's head, which it typically can be. It has to be out of the founder's head. You've got to have clear decision making. Again, even when you're bidding for work, is it a yes, no, or a pivot? So have that in place. And also customer input. Always listen to your customers. What are they telling you? What's their feedback saying? And use it to build up. And only scale what's proven. Don't chase the scale, chase what's proven. And the last thing, I think I mentioned this in the post another day, so people were talking about leaders, and I really like the method of doing pre-mortems. So like before you actually do anything, you actually discuss it to death and work out if this went really badly wrong, what would be the consequences of that.
Yeah.
So before you actually take a step into anything, you're already got the knowledge to understand what each of the steps might happen. So you're not going in blind. You've kind of basically put it to death, working out all the different scenarios and options. So I think that's a really important one as well.
Scenario analysis, that's really important.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Cheryl. Now to the final, it will be good to know certain things about you that you probably don't post online. But we're going to do a quick rapid fire round. It's called Finish the Sentence. So I'll give you the start of the sentence and you will complete it with the first thing that comes to mind. No need to overthink.
Okay, let's do it.
Good. Number one, if I could talk to my younger self, I'd say,
keep doing what you're doing. You only learn and grow through experience and those lessons that you will learn along the way.
Super. Number two, the biggest lie I believed about business success was
having a large team equaled success.
Okay, great. Number three, a habit that changed my life was or is
I'm a naturally messy, disorganized person with a person inside that really loves rigor and structure. And finding that rigor and structure has changed the momentum for me.
Nice. So the thing I'm most proud of is
I am very proud of many, many things, but I think I'm proud of still running a business coming into year 10 after so many challenges that I could never explain. And I'm proud I'm still here and I've survived. And I've got a great team around me who've helped me to get there, and I'm very proud of that.
That is so sweet. So if I were not doing this work, the work that
very sad. I love my job. I love helping people.
Yeah.
I think if you talk to any of our team, we're like, you wind us up and we're so passionate about what we can do and how we can help people. And I think I'm where I'm meant to be.
Amazing. And the final question, in 2026, I am saying yes to?
In 2026, I'm saying yes to putting myself first. Now that sounds a little bit selfish, and it's not at all, because as founders, we're so busy serving our team and serving our customers that sometimes we're not always doing the right things that us as leaders can then better improve our businesses. So we need to take a step back and look at what are the right things for us to be saying yes to.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. Sheryl Newman, how can people contact you if they want to?
So you can connect with me on LinkedIn. I love meeting you people. So please do connect with me on LinkedIn. You can contact us through the website, or you can send me an email, and I'm happy to share that with Bicola at the end. And I'm really always happy to chat and help and guide if I can. So yeah, or even if you just want to talk about fun stuff, that's all good too.
Thank you so much. Cheryl says that chaos will kill a startup faster than a competition. So you need to have clear operating rhythms, meetings, cadence, and just find those repetitive ways to validate and learn. Cheryl, thank you so much for an honest and practical conversation. I think that what you shared today is exactly what so many founders and operators need to hear, that scaling is not about, adding more systems and more processes. It's about building better. And with the right systems, the right habits, the right discipline levels, and the right use of technology, businesses can create the foundations that support growth rather than fighting against it. So everybody listening, if you are in that phase where things feel messy behind the scenes, I want you to take this episode as a reminder that you don't have to wait for the crisis to get your operations in order. Just like Cheryl said, the small intentional changes, backed by the right digital tools, can completely shift how your businesses perform. So a massive thank you again to Cheryl for joining me. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with a founder, a manager, or an operator who needs it. And don't forget to subscribe so that you don't miss the next conversation. I am Bukola Osuntui, and I'll see you on the next episode.